You were always there for me. Somewhere when the sun begins to shine, I hear a song from another time and fade away.
Not bad for a 30-second type-in job. I think we're getting there. Leanne, how are we doing today?
Pretty good, CJ.
Well, it is still cold out there.
Yeah.
However, hope is out there, too.
It is.
By the time the 27th rolls around, I think you guys will have some pretty good weather for this Living with Chronic Illness group.
Well, that's what we're hoping.
Well, and now take me through this. Before we dive into the event, let's take a little bit of a look at, what you provide at OSF Healthcare.
So in psychological services, we provide generalist mental health care, depression, anxiety, trauma. We have 6 therapists and a psychologist, and we all have our specialties, but we all are generalists. Mm-hmm. So we can handle a lot of things, but we do groups. We do all kinds of groups for grief, depression, neurological groups, people that are getting dementia, but at the early stages, anger management groups. So we have a wide variety of things that we do offer alongside individual sessions, family sessions, couples. We do children. We have new therapists that we are onboarding very soon that will be doing kiddos. And we also have 2 other therapists that are also seeing young children.
Well, and, I think it's so important that you hit on the fact that you're all generalists with specialties because, so many times I think it's great that we have these conversations about mental health, and we do all the time on the show now, and I think it's so important. But I also think sometimes we start to kind of tunnel vision mental health into maybe 2 or 3 perspective categories of, like substance use disorder and, anxiety and depression. And we don't look at that anger management side or all these other broader scopes of that wheel that really do need to be addressed too.
Yes. And I'm glad you mentioned substance abuse because I did forget to mention that we do have our therapist, Marla Nelson, and she was
just on the show.
Yeah. And so she is also cultivating some groups for family members and other people that are close to people that have substance use issues, alongside of people that are actually battling the issue.
This might sound like a silly question, but it's one that I've never asked before. I'm just kind of fascinated if you would know if there's a number. Is there a stat on, the success rate of somebody who's going through maybe therapy or some type of mental health session alongside their family or support system doing groups too? Has there been any data that comes out on that shows us? Because I would just imagine it's a very high, because your family is learning maybe how to handle some things, that they can encounter while you're going through your road to recovery. I just didn't know if that was a balancing factor.
So while I don't have any numbers off the top of my head, I do know that the research shows that when these things are combined versus just doing one thing, such as medication, or one thing such as just seeing a therapist one-on-one, we know that the combination of groups, support groups, so our groups are therapy groups,
right,
which is different. They're facilitated by a therapist, and we integrate the modes of therapy into the group setting. So that's different from support. But if you combine these things, the research shows that people do much better. The family is learning alongside the person that is trying to recover.
How is a group session a little bit different than an individual one-on-one session with a therapist? Because, at at a broad look at it, I go, well, you can't be as intimate. But I feel like for some people, maybe they feel more confident to be a little bit more telling in a group setting than maybe one-on-one. I just didn't know. Is there some pros and cons to the individualized and group settings?
Well, sure. And it really is individualized. It depends on the person, of course. But in a group setting, you do, such as the chronic illness group, they will be able to hear and see what other people are doing. That helps you not to feel so alone.
Makes sense.
Because the isolation is an issue for folks with chronic illness. Isolation is an issue for anyone with mental health issues a lot of the time. So it helps them to see that they're not alone. The therapy group is different from just a support group or individual in that as a group, you are learning strategies and skills together. And someone in the group may say, well, the reason I have trouble doing that is because XYZ, right? And then another person will say, that's why I haven't been using that skill. And so we can problem solve together, and the therapists can look into the group's discussion of this and lead them down and guide them down a road of coming to some resolution for that.
It's very fascinating. And, if you're just tuning in, coming down the pipeline on the 27th, is that Friday, Thursday?
It's on the 27th is a Wednesday. I might have it wrong.
That's Thursday. Is it
It's on Wednesday.
It's the 26th. Sorry about that. Hey, at least we're airing this out now. We're figuring it out early. This airs on the 20th. This will come out the 26th. 10:30 is when when it begins. It runs until 11:30. And this is at what portion of the hospital?
Right, and it's up in Psychological Services, which is on the 3rd floor, the West Wing, elevator 2 to the 3rd floor. We always say it. So we have a group room up there, and this will be weekly.
Really cool.
Yeah.
So take me through this. So I'm looking here and now just going through it. It's covered by most insurance plans, this group is.
Yes.
And what are some of the things that we can cover in this, and who is the right fit for this group?
Okay. So let's start right there, because someone might say, well, I've been sick for a long time. Is that considered a chronic illness? So a chronic illness is something that lasts for at least a year.
Okay.
And that you're going to need ongoing treatment, medical help or care, or have been told you're going to be needing this help or care for this, for a long time. Yeah. Chronic. It's daily. So that's kind of the criteria. For my group, I'm not going to sit down and count up months and years, right?
Right.
So that's the criteria.
And with this too, and this is something that I find so fascinating, you're exploring that, that mental health, factor when it comes to chronic illness, because you hit on it earlier, just circling back to it, that independence. And, to me, I've always wondered that, and it's weird. But you always think about those people that, we think about the caregiver a lot, and man, they must be going through so much, and we think about the person battling that illness, but we don't ever think about the mental side of it, where it's like, man, that's got to be awful, to sit there if you're really free and independent, and now you can't be. How do you live your life and alter it,
Exactly.
Is that some of what's going to be discussed?
Absolutely.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, that piece of independence that maybe they've had to give up, that piece that they are a living, thriving, community-oriented person now feels, a little bit less able to do that. And 6 in 10 of Americans have been diagnosed with a chronic mental illness, and at least 4 in 10 have more than one.
How many have one and don't have it diagnosed?
A chronic illness?
I'm sorry. I thought we were talking about mental illness,
the mental illness that comes along with that.
That's what I was kind of curious. That's interesting,
right.
Because you don't know. Sometimes you just don't know until it hits you one day.
That is true. And a lot of times, maybe family or even the person themselves may say, well, I'm down because I've got Crohn's disease, and that's why I'm just not clicking on all four cylinders. This is why I'm not sleeping. I'm isolating, when in fact some depression has set in, right. And it has to do with things have changed.
Well, and what's so fascinating too is it seems like and just from observing folks that are maybe going through some tough battles, right now, and it's like, you see the public face of it, and it's like, wow, that's brave. I mean, I'm proud of you. But, I'm sure we don't see the actual internal, thought process of, just that turmoil alone. You're going through the battle of your lifetime. Some might be ending in a road that's fatal, and some might not. It's just, and what I find so important is your mentality and your mental fitness are probably going to be your best tool to get you through, that battle. Because if you're down, it's going to be hard for your body to fight off whatever it's fighting off.
That's very true.
This is so cool.
True.
I'm loving this. This is so fantastic. And now family dynamics come into play big time on this, because the strain on a family sometimes during, helping, that loved one that's battling a chronic illness can be tough.
Yes.
What are some of the things that you've discussed in these, type of settings before when it comes to the family dynamic?
Well, the family dynamic becomes, so say a parent, maybe they're not elderly, maybe not in their, in their upper 80s or upper 70s, anything like that. But they've always been the head of the household. Now they are feeling like they are being taken care of like a child, being told things like, well, you really shouldn't do that, Dad, because of your neuropathy in your legs.
Right.
And so, the family dynamic changes from parent to children to the adult children being more parental in their interactions. And that's really hard for a lot of people to take on.
I'm 100. I could only imagine. And I'm sure, that comes with the boundary line too of when is it time to say I'm not an invalid too? Because that's what my grandma tells me all the time. I can still drive. I'm still fine. Don't tell me I can't go out when it snows, and
right.
And obviously she's not battling chronic illness, but there is a line though, I'm sure, when it comes to that caregiver-caree relationship.
Yeah. The other family dynamic that changes depending on the age of the person and what the chronic illness is, some of the children under 18 even are doing some of those things that are more caregiving and parental in nature. And the person that may come in like to one of these groups will say, I feel terrible that my 15-year-old son has to make supper every night.
It's true. That's very true. Well, and see, that's why I think these groups are so important, because sometimes you can get all the information you want from your therapist or your counselor or what have you, but it's not connecting because it's not coming from somebody that's living that same experience.
Exactly, and that is exactly what groups are renowned for. They really help people to see that.
And now, so these are going to be every Wednesday, correct?
Correct.
And it's going to be from 10:30 to 11:30. It starts on the 26th at the Psychological Services Office, 3rd floor west at St. Anthony's Health Center.
Correct.
And how do we sign up?
So before someone can come in and participate in our therapy groups, they need to have an intake done. So sometimes we get calls that say, I really want to start this right away. And so I may be their primary, but I don't have time to get them in for an intake, but one of the other therapists can.
Cool.
Or, sometimes someone else will step in if they've got a no-show or a call-off or something. We try very hard to get folks into the groups that they're wanting, but they do need to have an intake first.
Really cool. And then with that, they still have to call the line to register afterwards, correct? The phone number?
Usually initially they will call and say.
Gotcha.
Right. But as far as scheduling, on the intake day, they can say, sign me up. I want to start. Cool. If they're appropriate, that's what we'll do. We'll say, okay.
Before I let you go, can you take me through some of your other? Do you have any other groups you'd like to fill us in on, or?
Oh, sure. Well, I do a grief group on Tuesday nights from 5:30 to 6:30. And we cover all kinds of losses, not just the death of a loved one, but, we have different types of losses. We have a DBT group or Mood Masters group, which is for some of the younger kids that have difficulty regulating their mood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Anger management. And like I said, for Marla, she is getting some substance use disorder groups for folks and families, for individuals and those loved ones that are living with those folks.
That's so unique.
We have caregiver group for those that are taking care of. It doesn't have to be an elderly person. Maybe you have a disabled child.
Yeah.
So all types of caregivers. We have the caregiver group. I know I'm missing. Oh, we have a 20-something group. We find now more than ever that our young adults are having difficulty launching.
Yeah.
And so this group is brought on by Rachel Brown, and she is doing a fantastic job helping those folks out. So,
well, I seriously mean, it's a great conversation, and I'm so glad to have you in the studio. And whenever you have time to come back in and fill us in more on, groups that you're providing and just some of the growth that you're seeing, we'd love to have that.
Okay, great.
The time is 10:27 on this Friday morning. 16 degrees, double digits. We'll come back with more Daily Show next.